Chris Level here with another edition of Pirate Talk. Chip Darden on my left, and football season is now here. We're not talking about scrimmages anymore, although we may get into the Pirates' second scrimmage against Midland High a little bit. But all the focus is on Lucas Lovejoy, the Leopards. I think they do this business is like their hand signal. The Pirates will be about 5 or 6 hours away from home this Friday night. Kickoff will be at 7:32 p.m. I'm being very specific there because that's 7:37. I sit corrected. 7:37, like the airplane. So this game will be broadcast on Bally's Southwest. So we'll mention that at the end of the show here. But if you cannot access Bally's, get you a free trial on what's called Fubo. You can get a free week's trial and then cancel it, I believe, and you can access and watch the game there. Craig Way will be doing it, a guy that I've known for a long time that calls the University of Texas game. Yeah, so depending on where you're fan
there's a Bally's Plus app too. The same thing. You can get a 1 week free deal on.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah. And obviously Tommy Wood and Chuck Darden and Taylor McMacken, in addition to the crew this year, will be calling it on radio on 100.7 The Score. Without further ado, we will now get into said matchup and Coach Darden's team.
And if you're a pro, you get Tommy Wood on the radio, and then you get your app and you sync them up, and then that's the way to roll.
Yes, and it just takes a little hit and miss on kind of the pause and speed up and all that just to kind of sync it up. It will not be on the Lubbock Cooper YouTube channel. We are not allowed to do that because Bally's has got to deal with the UIL. So just so we're clear there, don't look for this contest on the district YouTube channel if you were planning on doing that. Okay, so we'll get into the opponent and all those things here in a little bit, but your team and ready to play a game. You've had a long fall camp. This is just the point of the season where it gets really hard for players and coaches, and the grind, and then now the fun part is now in your lap.
Yeah, especially for us this year. Since 2014, we've done spring football every year. So when you do spring football, then you lose a week in the fall. Guys that did spring football started on August the 12th. Well, we didn't do spring this year for the first time, and I guess that's 10 seasons, and so we had the extra week. It's like, okay, we gotta play a game, and you can feel that with the kids. They're ready to play. I think everything around it matters, and the opponent and all that. But I think it doesn't matter who we'd be playing this week. Our guys will be excited and ready to play somebody else.
And I think your team is healthy. Mm-hmm. Yes, which you've managed a few guys, which is normal for everybody at this point of the year, especially guys that have done it or had nicks and bruises. You just kind of get them through until the end and until the lights come on and all those things. But so that's a positive because a lot of times camps are necessary, but you just hold your breath.
Right.
Please don't something bad happen when and we saw that at a scrimmage a year ago when you're the team you were scrimmaging quarterback issue, and it's terrible. Injuries are a part of it. But you've had a relatively good camp, and it's been really hot. That surely will benefit you.
Yeah. And going back to what you said about injuries, I think the more you coach, the more you – and it's going to sound bad. I don't mean this bad, that you don't worry about them, but they just happen, and so like you can't adjust the practice based on it. You can't do. You got to practice the way you're going to practice, and I think it works out in your favor, and you just can't stress about it, I guess, and hope that it doesn't happen. But
or can take up every thought.
Absolutely,
yeah.
And we thought we had a really good fall camp. We thought scrimmages were good. The scrimmages are tough because we don't prep for them. We played Midland this last week. That is a triple option, something that you would really change your defense based on, and we just didn't. We're kind of showed them a little bit of option responsibilities the day before, and just made sure we somewhat knew. But we're not going to sit there and game plan for a scrimmage. We're trying to get better at what we do. So we judge it really based on collectively how hard we're playing. If we're doing it right, are we getting personal foul penalties, or are we playing it the right way? And then we kind of look at individuals. Okay, how is this person performing? Maybe we've got a battle at a certain position. How are they performing? And so that's kind of how we look at scrimmages. We don't care what the score is. Somebody asked me the other day, well, what was the score? I was like, I don't even know. And then another coach was there, said, we scored one, they scored one. I was like, oh, well, I didn't even know. Like, that's just not how we evaluate it. So thought it was very productive, no major injuries. The heat has been interesting. I think that Midland scrimmage was the hottest day that Lubbock's going to see this year. The high was 107. We've had to adjust, and we've got the week 11 open. So if you count the scrimmages, we're going 12 straight weeks of game or scrimmage. And so I think right now we are practicing less than we ever have. And the thought is us coaches have to keep reminding ourselves that for the right now, it could hurt us just a little bit. Like, yeah, we probably could practice a little bit more. But for October, this is going to pay off, how we're taking care of our bodies right now. So don't know if it's the right way, but think it is, and think our kids are fresh.
You're playing the long game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so the Leopards. How in the world does Lubbock Cooper end up going on the other side of Dallas for a non-district game? Kind of educate. And I think what's fascinating is you scheduled this game or series and agreed to it and everything, and then you weren't sure if it was going to stay because there was a coaching change, and you kind of were like, well, I don't know if we really do have a game, but kind of just take us through, and we'll get into some of those details. But.
Yeah, really, it goes back to, I think it was I can't remember if it was 2 years ago or 4 years ago. Their head coach at the time was Chris Ross, who's now at Stephen F. Austin.
The offensive coordinator at SFA.
Yeah. And me and him had spoke about, they did a Allen. So Lovejoy Stadium and Allen Stadium is like a mile apart. They butt up to each other. Lovejoy used to be a middle school, up to middle school only, and then all those kids went to Allen. And so it's a fairly new high school, 2008 maybe, something like that. Anyway, so they're right there. Well, Allen does a kickoff classic every year where Allen plays on a Friday night, and then two other teams play at Allen Stadium, that big 25,000-seat stadium, on Saturday night. So Lovejoy kind of asked us to be in that game. So we kind of talked about it. One of the issues, we would have to go there 2 years in a row, and kind of one of my cards that I played was, well, then y'all are going to have to come here the two after. Well, they said, okay, we'll do it. And then ultimately we backed out of that because it was a Saturday 8 p.m. kickoff. Just traveling all the way back, we just didn't think that would be real good, a Saturday kickoff. So anyway, that started kind of the line of communication, and then just this off season, we're looking for games and thought it'd be good for our program if we went out and scheduled somebody that was not in our area, and got in touch with our interim coach. He felt good about it, and then figured out pretty quick they were going to hire a big name, because I got a call right before they hired Coach Dodds from them that said, if you can lock in coming to us year one, we're in, done deal. And so that worked out with our schedule anyway. And then the next day they announced Todd Dodge as the head coach. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
And for people that don't follow the sport closely, Todd Dodge is, Max Catwinkle, former head coach at Cooper and everything, now the athletic director here that we all answer to. He's responsible for these Reese's Peanut Butter Cups here too, by the way. I just want you to know we may dabble a little bit now on the clock. But I said, Coach Dodge, man. And he said he's the godfather of Texas high school football. And I think, Tech has Joey McGuire, who's got a great name, but Todd Dodge is a standard and has been for 20-plus years.
7 state championships, I believe, that he's won.
And he's three-peated at 2 different schools.
Yep.
South Lake Carroll and Austin Westlake, and had retired. Got out, I think 21, and he got out. He'd been out for a couple of years, but he just wanted to be back in the Metroplex, and I think he just missed it and wanted to get back in. And so he gets dropped into your lap. Because I remember you had this game scheduled. We were talking about it, and then I didn't realize they had an interim coach because Chris Ross was hired by Colby Carthel at SFA to be the OC. Yeah, and just to give you an idea, why does a high school head coach get hired to go be an OC in college? They average 41 points a game, 444.9 yards per game in high school. Yeah, that's pretty good. So he goes, but it was just. I think it's just this is going to be a lot of fun. This is pretty fascinating kind of turn of events, and as you and I were talking before we started taping, Coach Dodge has been great throughout this whole. Oh yeah. Yeah, classy, has reached out to you at various times, and he's been super helpful, and I think this will be fun. And keep in mind, folks, these Leopards are coming to Lubbock next year to open up the season. So that'll be the first game of the season next year at Pirate Stadium, Lucas Lovejoy. So that's a lot of L's. Lucas Lovejoy Leopards. Yeah. Yep. Triple L. Okay, your team. It was interesting because I was listening to Coach Dodge talk about his team because he's always coached in 6A, or Austin Westlake was part of the 5A thing, especially Division 2, which means you're the smaller. And I wanted to ask you that. He talked about, wow, the first thing I really got to do is I got to cross train a bunch of guys. Like we're going to play some more guys both ways. You didn't have to really do that at 6A because I got 250 kids in a football program. With that, how has that looked for you? Because
Yeah.
I think you're kind of planning on.
Yeah, I think you'll see that more than we've done in the past. I don't know that I'm really good at anything, but one thing that I haven't been good at 100% is how we train those guys without doubling a practice. Without making an hour and a half practice 3 hours, keeping the practice time down and doing that. But I think we've got a really good plan and have done a good job this year. So you're going to see kids play both ways, and I think there's two parts to it. Numbers matter, having the amount of kids, but I also just think our best players need to be on the field, and that's ultimately what it is. And there's a difference there. You've got to play a certain way. There's a lot of offenses nowadays. They're trying to get 80 to 100 snaps, and if you're doing stuff like that, I think you're going to have a hard time with kids playing both ways. So our style, I think, fits kids playing on both sides of the ball, but we'll still play a whole bunch of kids. We're not going to have 11 starters that go both ways, but some guys here and there, and just guys being able to go a series and give somebody a break, I think will be key. And I think our coaching staff's just done a good job of getting some of those ready.
And without getting into who or whatever, do you have a ballpark on how many? I mean, are we talking 5? We talking 10? We talking 15?
Yeah, I would say 5 is probably about a realistic number right now. I think by the time we get into district, it could be a little bit more. And where it is the skill guys. I think it's hard to do up front at this level. So a lot of our linemen won't do it, but just skill guys being able to give some breaks and getting some different guys the ball.
You have some really, I think, good skill on your team, really on offense. I think, it's not a secret. I mean, Michael Deaver is committed to Texas Tech, and, obviously your kicker is committed to Air Force, and there's some of those guys. But you've got a good running back / slot that's a captain that's played a lot of football for you since he was a sophomore. Yeah. Talk about him.
Yeah, Jackson Austin.
Yeah, number one in your heart, number one in your program.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. He's been. I called him the other day. I said, "You're like a 12th year senior." It seems like been here forever, but that is a testament to him, and he's changed his game kind of throughout. And I mean, I know you said we won't get into it, but he's one that you're going to see on both sides of the ball, and he needs to play some defense for us, and he's just super talented. If we need to play him in the slot, if we need to play him at running back, he could do it. I feel like he could play a whole lot of other positions too, and I think he made a commitment to getting a little bit bigger, be able to take his sophomore year. I always look at that Tascosa game when he was probably weighing about 140 pounds that year, and they had a kid that's at TCU that was a grown man, and Jackson just slipping through there, and I think he realized he needed to put on a little weight to be able to take the hits of varsity football, and he's done that, and man, you can just sure count on him. To me, that's one of the big deals, just the trust that we've got in him to play hard all the time and to do things the right way.
His plate is full.
It is.
I mean, he's going to do a lot for you. Your quarterback is back, Ryan Rodriguez. He had a great year last year. I know you expect that to continue. The group up front, it's always what a coach worries about. Doesn't matter what level you're coaching at. It doesn't matter if it's college, pro, professional. I mean, well, that's the same thing. Or high school is the case. Pro and professional, that's the same thing.
You learned something watching this show.
That's right. Absolutely. We learned you up here. Offensive line, though. It's just it may keep coaches up more than any other position group. That's just the way it goes. Yeah. It takes a lot of them. There's not that many big people in the world. Yeah. Okay. Assess that real quick.
And a lot of it, I think, boils down to we believe, and I think most good coaches believe, running the football is winning football. And that's kind of ours. We're going to run the football and we're going to play defense. Like those are it. Now we've got a really good quarterback, some really good receivers that you mentioned. Like we're not 100% run, but you've got to be able to run the ball with success. And so those guys up front matter. And we think we've got the best O-line coaches. We've got multiple coaches that are involved with them. We got the best ones in the state. And I think we've got a lot of players that have played significant reps. You know, sometimes we get asked about returning starters. How many returning starters you got? How many? I look more at how much returning experience overall. Whether you were the first one, the first snap of the game, or not, if you got 20, 25 reps against Alito, those reps matter. And so we've got about 5 guys on the O-line that have a ton of experience. So I think that's going to pay off. I really think us not doing spring ball affected them more than any other group. Just the physical part that you get in spring ball. So it just took them a little bit. That first week was kind of getting back into it, and you just saw us take a big leap this week, I think, with our physicality and how that group was. So, I'm always going to be worried about the O-line, but I think I'm pretty excited about them right now.
On the other side of the field or the other side of the ball defensively, I failed to mention this in the first show that we did a week ago, whatever. But new guy calling the defense, Taylor Reed, a guy that I think the world of. He knows that side of the ball and just is such a good coach. But it's now his defense to call. Without getting into too many details, I mean, how much change has that been? Is that because Coach Lakeman obviously is doing something else now?
Yeah, Coach Reed has been with. This is his 3rd season with us. He's been the special teams coordinator the last 2 years. Previously, he was the defense coordinator at Monterey, and then he's got head coaching experience too up in Farwell. And so he's been around. He's coached a lot of different kids and a lot of different schemes, and all that's great. It's going to look the same, I think, a lot. I think there's a lot of stuff that we were doing that had his his fingerprints on and kind of helping develop with Coach Lakeman. But if I'd say one thing, I think our kids are going to play faster. I think simple's not the word. Like, there's some complex stuff with what we do, but I think our kids, that playbook used to be pretty thick, and that playbook's not quite as thick. So I think our kids know it. They're going to be able to play fast, and that's ultimately what you want. It's great to have a whole bunch of stuff on, but if you can't execute it, then you can't play fast, and you got no chance.
And you've got a really good, I think it's one of maybe the strengths of your team, really good group up front.
Yeah, that's the key. And guys like Jackson Sewell and Sione Vea that have been playing on that D-line for a while have been great. But then we got Caden Brown and Pat Garcia and Jackson Turnbow. Those guys being able to play multiple positions, like Turnbow's great. He can play inside. He can play outside. Those guys had a great fall camp, and we feel really good about them to go along with 2 inside linebackers that, you talk about ball hawks, and they can find the ball. And PJ Preston, I think last year, maybe the friendship game, we had a linebacker that was sick. So Preston was kind of the 3rd guy, kind of the rotation guy. He started. I think he had like 18 or 19 tackles. So feel really good about that front 7. Think they're gonna have a chance to disrupt, and maybe it makes it pretty easy on Coach Reed calling it. So
you heard it.
Must be nice, Coach Reed.
Yeah, that's right. You heard it, Coach Reed. One of the problems that Lovejoy will pose is they have on paper, a phenomenal skill player in Dalen McCutcheon, who is, I think, by some, he's a top 15 receiver in the country. He's a top 100 player in the country, all that stuff. He's committed to Florida State. Without giving anything away, like what do you do there?
Yeah, it's not on paper that he's good. It's on film that he's good. He is really
and
talented.
I've seen some of that film, and he is, yeah that's right.
He's super talented. A fun player to watch. Like, obviously, he's not fun to prep for and all that, but like after the fact, being able to watch him, he's the type of kid that might play on Sundays. I think he's got that level of talent, but it'll be fun too. Like, I think something like that, where they've got a player like that. I mean, we're going to play good receivers the rest of the year. There's a team across town that's got a couple that are really good too, and so I think it'll be a good challenge for us. I think a difference is, a lot of times we play really good receivers that are outside receivers. They play him in the slot a whole lot, and so that brings different challenges, and a little harder to like travel a corner with him in the slot.
Players.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can tell you that we've got a good game plan. and it would be different if they just had him. Their running back is, I think, maybe the most underrated player on their team, and then to go with an O-line that's really good. And I said our O-line coaches are number one in the state. Theirs might be number two. You can tell their O-line is really well coached. So anyway, it might be a little easier if he was the only thing they had. They've got others to go with him, but he's pretty fun to watch, pretty explosive.
Yeah, they were 12-2 last year total team.
Yeah.
It's just really good team. Okay, so you went to. We joked about this at the end of last week's show. We were joking about Dwight Yoakam and all that, but you actually went to see Dwight. Late last
There's nothing to
week.
joke about with Dwight.
Did you have was there a favorite song on the set list that he sang that night? Out at Cook's Garage.
Yeah, it was a good time. We danced to me and my wife Stacy. We danced to a few songs. It was good.
Very
nice. Oh yeah. I'm not a good dancer. I'm gonna put that out there.
I
will two-step.
Shocked.
I will two-step. That's the only kind of dancing. You're not going to see me doing the Cliff Kingsbury dance-off with a player. That's not happening. But no, it was good. Streets of Bakersfield is always one of my favorites. I'm a pretty big fan. But no, they were all good.
That's awesome.
They were all good.
The timing of that could not have been any better because you guys.
It's fate.
Yeah, you guys scrimmaged on a Thursday. This was a Friday night right before football season would get going. It was just you got lucky, honestly.
It was great. It was a great time.
I mean, Stacy got lucky too, hooking up with this guy right here.
Yeah.
But your sweet wife. Well, man. Do you before your team runs out there? How much time do you spend thinking about what to tell them before a game like this? Do you spend much, or are you not you like I'm not going to get into all that? Like I want to keep it.
Sometimes I think you have to read the team, and I think this week it's pretty easy. These guys are pumped up to play,
so you don't have to say a whole lot.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, and we've got some stuff that we do locker room wise, and before we go out that is internal that we do that I think is neat. And the first time you do that is always kind of special. What we do before we run out, so it'll be fun. And an underrated part of this game that we didn't mention is special teams because. And I'm sorry to bring something up as you were trying to close it out, but special teams are so hard in a scrimmage because you just line up and do it. You don't actually go through it. So you see guys after game one a lot of times earn more reps on offense or defense because all of a sudden on special teams they were so good. You see, in a scrimmage we don't get to use our weapon that's Cub Patton. Special teams play such a huge role in this, and I think ours, we've practiced them a whole bunch, and I'm excited to see them actually in live action and get to impact the game.
And special teams can win or lose a game too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's be special on special teams.
Absolutely.
If you can. Well, I'm sure there'll be a bowl of candy corn here next week or something terrible.
Now I'm out on candy corn, but Reese's is the number one.
Chip and I are not simpatico with a lot of things, but we both hate candy corn equally. So with that, go have yourself a Reese's, people. Thank you for listening to another edition of Pirate Talk. Go Pirates. We'll talk to you next time. Remember, kickoff 7:37 on Friday night. Talk to you next time.